Hello, everyone. My name's Peter Towers. I'm the Managing Director of ESS BIZTOOLS, and I'm joined today by Amanda Gascoigne from Amanda Gascoigne Consulting. How are you, Amanda?
I'm great, thanks, Peter. How are you today?
Good, thanks. This is part of our series of presenting webinars on topical subjects where we have invited our representatives of our various affiliates to join us. And today it's Amanda's turn. And we're going to discuss the sort of services that smaller accountancy firms can be making to their clients to help them develop their businesses and add value. So what do you think's happening out there in smaller accountancy firms, Amanda, with the delivery of services beyond taxation?
Yeah, look, Peter, I think it's certainly an area the majority of accountants do want to get into, but the issue has been an issue that's been around for a long, long time, and that is all about capacity. So I guess the point that I'd like to make today is if that's you that you really want to be starting to provide such services, it's a matter of just creating that capacity so you can actually start doing this. So it's a capacity issue, and also having the right tools and being surrounded by the people that can support you in actually introducing a lot of this stuff with your clients.
Yes, ESS BizTools has developed a range of product packages to assist, and I have a number of new subscribers at present that I'm conducting the mentoring sessions with. And it's interesting. Some people want to rush into it and basically be saying, we're going to be starting next week. And I say, hang on. We haven't done the training program yet.
Yeah.
And I think no matter what the accountants that we're talking to today are doing, if you're going to go into something new, you need to make sure your team's prepared. And there's been some training, and we have a product we called an SME needs analysis, which was originally developed by Andrew Geddes many years ago when he was the managing director of FMRC, and it invites feedback from the client as to what services they would like. Do they understand how benchmarking works? Would they like some benchmarking done? Do they understand their key performance indicators? Or are they just a sheet of paper that someone gives them and maybe they don't even get them? And I think that's the sort of level that accountants need to start at in delivering these newer services.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything major to start with. And I think especially like a lot of small and solo accounting practice owners, which is the accounting practice owners that I work with and coach, it's, they've got so much training they've got behind them, but it's a lack of confidence. It's the lack of confidence and also that lack of time. So just starting off small is something, that I do recommend. So even just, as you're finishing clients compliance work for this year, or as we're looking at tax planning, as we're looking at helping our clients set budgets and that for the new financial year, it's just those small things, even just comparing to start off with the ATO small business benchmarks. If it's just having a look at just little things that are going to pique your client's interest, because if you go out and start offering this new service that you've never offered before for a couple of $1,000s, that you really don't even know what exactly it is you're going to offer, but you know that you've got the skills to deliver it, sometimes you're setting yourself up for failure because it's not actually being rolled out. The clients aren't really aware of this sort of stuff, and they can be a little bit skeptical. What are they selling this to me for? So it's sort of those baby steps, and it could be just, starting to talk as you're, doing a set of financials, or when you first get a client in the door, actually talk to them about some of these services that down the track that will actually offer to you. Like it's like really an educative process. And once clients, it's what I found when I was in practice, and I find with the clients that I work with, once they introduce a lot of this stuff to clients, even if they're fee sensitive, they love this stuff. This is the stuff that helps them become better business owners and make more money and have more, rewarding businesses. So yeah, it's just that process, but we've got to start somewhere. And
I agree.
So just start small, and that will, the positive communication and the positive feedback you'll get from clients just by putting even something in their year-end letter, or just by sharing something in a newsletter, that is just going to pique their interest, and they're going to love it. And that's going to ultimately give you more confidence. That thing that you might offer free right now, you might then start to have a $500 product for that before 30th of June. Then next year that might morph into something like a $1,500 product or something else. So yeah, there's so many opportunities. And look, I just say have a go and do it. And even if you just test it out with a few clients to start with.
Yeah, well, that's basically my, and following on what you're talking about at the end of the when they finish their annual accounts work and tax return, it's also a great opportunity to look at some government grants. And we have a product which will facilitate that, of course. But there's a lot of grants out there that accountants can do a fair bit of the work. In fact, I think it's about 40% of the work in most grants for a client that a client could attract is work that accountants could do if you're prepared to do business plans, budgets, cash flow forecasts, corporate governance, mentoring, training, accounting reports interpretation. Government agencies will pay for clients to be trained in reading these financials. How many of your clients can't understand your annual accounts that you've given them? And you can talk to government agencies and get a grant that you could then get paid to train your clients and mentor them.
And the other thing, Peter, I think another roadblock for accountants is that they don't know where to start. So if they've got like an Excel spreadsheet that might only look, quite formative, or they might not even know what sort of stuff to put on a spreadsheet or what stuff to present to a client, how much detail, that's where, a product such as yours will actually help them. So it's just that starting point and having that confidence and using that.
Yeah. And in our system, we have a series of marketing hints and some communications, because the first thing they've really got to do is establish the trust with their clients that they do know more than just taxation. And obviously they do. They wouldn't be qualified accountants if they didn't.
Yeah, that's it. Everyone's got the skills. They've got the skills. They might not have the resources, and they might not have the confidence and the, how to price something. If you price it and you underprice it, it's a learning curve for you all. And then, it may be just an introductory offer, and then you actually double the price next time if you've realized you've totally undercharged or, under budgeted. So, don't be afraid. Don't let that hold you back.
No, and the SME needs analysis that I mentioned earlier, the benefit of that document is it identifies common areas that clients are interested in. I've based it, first of all, on Andrew Geddes' experience, and then on my own, and what people are interested in. And it's amazing, some of the things that clients nominate, I'd never spoken to them about. I didn't think they were interested in it. And it could be things like succession planning. We all forget about succession planning. And succession planning doesn't need to be when someone's getting on in years. It could be an earlier stage, and it could be basically a motivation to develop proper team training within an organization. Or it might be that the business wants to scale up and get bigger, and how they're going to finance it. So it can lead to a lot of things.
How optimizing a sale price, or I often talk about you should always be sale ready, because a lot of businesses, whether they be accounting practices or whether they be normal SME businesses, quite often they're not actually seeing the future and what could happen. So in addition to like always being sale ready, so you might have someone who just wants to come and gobble you up, a large corporate, or it could be even something which is really unforeseen. So it could be an illness, or it could be sudden death, or it could be a whole heap of things. And I think that's one of the other reasons why we shouldn't be waiting to sell out to make the money. We should be making money as we're going, having that business model as profitable as you possibly can and as enjoyable, so it actually is something that someone wants to come in and buy. The accountants that are working 60, 70 hours thinking they're going to get this nice little nest egg at the end, a lot of businesses will not buy a practice like that because they don't want a practice that's going to require them to work in excessive hours. So that's what we've got to be looking at, and that's something that we can be doing for our clients and ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a concept of being investment ready. I know of a situation that I was involved in where a client someone walked in and literally knocked on the door and said,
Yeah.
"Is your business for sale?"
Yes.
And they said, "Oh, who are you?" And they identified, and this was very legitimate. Sometimes people will get
Yes.
not non-legitimate inquiries.
Yeah.
This one was, as it turned out.
Yeah.
So the client, the business said, "Oh, it'll take us a fair while to get everything ready." Or how long? Or a month or so. That's what he told him originally. The guy rang back 2 months later and said, "Have you got your information yet?" "Oh, no. I've been too busy. And we got new customers and all that." He rang back one more time and got the same answer. About 6 months later, he rang the business, rang the inquirer and said, "Oh, I got all that ready now." He said, "Oh, no, too late, mate. We bought one of your competitors and we're about to rebadge and start." So he not only lost the opportunity of selling, but he had a major corporation then in his own backyard as a competitor. And that was because he was not investment ready. He took 6 months to be able to supply and they basically at that stage only wanted basic information. "We want your financials for last year. We want your current financials. We want a list of debtors and your creditors and a few other things." And he couldn't supply it.
Yeah, and that's a really good example to give to clients. Those clients that are really dragging the chain. That's the sort of stuff that actually takes a lot of the capacity away from accountants, because they're chasing this, they're running late with their compliance work, they can't do their tax planning, they can't do other planning because of people that are tardy. Like, it's actually that's a great example to try to get people in earlier, and having a client base full of really organized proactive clients, then you can be doing the same.
Yes, and you're moving them through. We were going to talk about a few other issues today, which are areas that Amanda, you and I generally agree on when we had our discussion the other day, are services that smaller accountants, and this is not just for smaller accountants today,
no, of course not,
but small and medium-sized enterprise clients. They're the people that come to ESS BIZTOOls, and I know they're the people that you're working with. What can they do to start getting into this diversification phase of doing more non-compliance work?
Yeah, so I guess one of the things that I, for those that are watching who haven't seen me before, I had a practice for 18 years, and it was mainly dealing with SME clients. But I guess the thing would be working out what sort of advisory you want to do, because there is so many things, and it's a real opportunity to develop a niche in a particular area. So you don't have to offer the full gambit. So if you won't go and type in a whole heap of advisory things, there might be some stuff that you say, "Look, I don't really have an interest in that." So just pick a few that you might have an interest in. So the ones that I did in my practice, right at that very early stage when I was trying to create the capacity, get my systems in place, get my clients organized, and start dabbling in the advisory space, were the break-even analysis, having charge rates, having those discussions with clients about the different interactions and how the charge out rates work, how they can go amiss if things, what are the elements, when you're trying to work that out, and what can actually, you think you're having a great charge out rate, but then, looking at productivity. So how it all interconnects, looking at those ATO guidelines, because that definitely does pique their interest. So how am I performing against the ATO? And I see a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of accountants about that, and they say, "Oh, but the ATO stuff is it's really old, like it's based on 2017 or something like that." But I say, "But you know what? That's the stuff that we've got access to, and that's the stuff that the ATO are using." So even though it's old, it just gives the clients an idea of the types of things that the ATO are looking at. So just that in itself, by just showing them that, they might say, "Well, we're a little bit outside of this, or we're a little bit under, or whatever. This might be a reason why you may get an audit. How about we delve into a little bit deeper?" So in the event that you do get an audit, we've got it worked out why you're outside those parameters. And then also while we're doing that, let's see how we can get you inside those parameters, which would mean you would be making more money. You wouldn't be working so hard. Like just those little conversations. And it doesn't have to be a big sell. I think accountants are really worried about selling. And if people about, about getting more money and making more money. But at the end of the day, this is how we're serving our clients more. And this is the stuff they're prepared to pay for.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I agree.
So it's just like little something small. And then if you wanted to go into, being a grant specialist or being an R&D specialist or whatever it happens to being, maybe an industry specific specialist for advisory, there is a whole range of things. And this is what makes it not being competitive, because you find out what you like, you get your systems, you do it really well, you price it well. You don't have to worry about what the person down the road's doing, because they may have a different interest to you. And if clients actually want to go to that accountant because they're offering that, so be it, because they've probably got clients that want what you want. So
That's right.
Don't worry about the competition and having to do everything and being so overwhelmed. Just do what you are really comfortable with, what you know you can nail. And that's where I'd be starting.
Yes, develop niche products or niche industries. There are some accountants out there who are experts in medical practices or dental practices or IT firms. You can do that, can be part of your diversification if you're interested in that. And you can also take the benchmarking a step further and subscribe to benchmarking.com, although I think they're now called Australian Benchmarking.
Yeah, and we did that. I did that as well. As well. And that was really great. But again, people might be seeing that and think that's too expensive. I can't afford that. Okay, let's just use the ATO to start with.
You start with that.
As you earn more money from that part of the advisory, then you can afford to invest in the subscription service.
That's right. And one of the things you're doing by even starting with the ATO benchmarking figures is you are starting to go beyond the normal work that's involved in tax. You are giving your clients some management accounting advice, because part of that might be, it's costing too much here, or your productivity is obviously too low, because these other people are achieving different economies. Now, some of that might come out only by having the benchmarking.com information, because they will give you the number of employees and what the income's been and what the average income is. And that's a very interesting stat to put in front of a client. I had one that I think his people were achieving about 64 or 65,000. This is some years ago per person, but the industry average was up over $110,000.
Yes, that's right.
It's staring us in the face. This is your problem. And he just was not getting enough productivity out of his people. And it's one of the issues.
I did the same thing with a client for an accounting client that I did a bit of a health check on their practice today. And same thing, I used that, average fee per client, average hourly rate. This stuff is universal across. They were just very formative, but to show where they're sitting. And a lot of that stuff, when you just do one or two figures, it actually makes people sit up and think and want more. So it doesn't have to, it could be something that you could just do something like that straight from the financials without any systems or anything. That's what's going to say, well, can we go further? Yes, well, we've got a product, and then they would jump into ESS BIZTOOLS and get the relevant product or whatever you need for the client. So that's as simple as it can be. And looking at that progressively, and a client can look at that themselves. So you might show them that and say, look, and so, we definitely could do better, and that must be wrong. Okay, well, that's okay. Well, this is the formula. How about you look at it this month and the next month, and then come back and see me. So you're not selling anything, you're just creating an awareness and getting them to look at it. And I bet you that they will come back and say, hey, I've been tracking this. And you know what, you are right. I have been. It's all I've been achieving, and I thought I was achieving so much more because of what I was charging. So this is the stuff, and they come to you and say, hey, how can you help me? And I don't care what it costs. And not that we want to rip anyone off, but that's the stuff. Even though they've complained about the cost of compliance, they will pay for that.
Amanda, I think one of the things that our viewers should be looking at doing is calculating their average fee from business clients. It's an interesting exercise. You can do it if you got the benchmarking.com information. and there's a couple of other people producing that sort of information each year. The average in Australia currently, I understand, is about $4,000. That's the fee that's been paid. So for a 25% increase in your average fees, you only have to generate another $1,000 per client.
Yeah.
And I think if you narrow it down like that, and you've got 100 or 150 clients, there's $100 or $150,000 you have put into your gross income. And you might find that most of that goes through to the bottom line. If you can reorganize your work team and start doing it. So you don't have to go out looking for an extra $1 million.
No.
But start in a smaller bit and then work out what you can add. And for your tradie type clients, and we've been talking about charge out rates here on and off a bit, it's a matter of going through and looking at their productivity, looking at what their markup on their external purchases is, looking at their overheads, and obviously looking at the profit margin they'd like to make. But then perhaps saying to them, well, how about we have a meeting every quarter? We'll do the financials every quarter, and we'll have a business review meeting. And if they're bigger, every month, but start them on quarterly. And that will generate, by the time you've reviewed the charge out rates and you've sat down and run 4 quarterly meetings for them, produced an action plan out of it, make sure the reports are submitted, you will earn at least another $1,000 in fees. And maybe that's the way you get started.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's so many opportunities, Peter. It's a matter of sitting down and stepping back from the normal grind of the practice and working out what can I do. And those numbers that you've just rolled off. It doesn't take a lot to actually up a client's fee or to provide just one small service. It could just be a budgeting, which is so useful.
That's
the
right.
budgeting, anything like that, because that when they're looking at that, then all those other things are all interrelated. So this year they might get the charge out rate, review. Then next year they might get a budget. Next year they might have a goal setting, because now what they thought was their target, actually no, that's they're not been thinking big enough, and they can actually achieve more without working more, without even potentially getting a lot bigger from a staffing perspective.
Yes, and those systems can then create economies within the firm, because if you're a partner sitting there doing wage earner tax returns, even though they might be your friends, you need to delegate that or politely suggest they go to a firm that just wants to do the tax return work, because the business community is really looking for assistance from accountants. And after the year that we've all had, I think a lot of people are going to be looking for a lot of assistance.
It's ripe for the picking. And I also think another point there, Peter, in addition to being more enjoyable work and more that relationship building from a practice owner, obviously putting more profit on the bottom line. But if you've got staff, this is the stuff that's exciting for them as well. So it's actually can be staff retention plan if you have or actually someone trying to attract to your firm that say, we don't just do compliance, we do some of these other things, or we're looking at growing this particular area of our practice. So I know with a firm that I'm working on, one of their younger accountants, one's going to be in charge of tax planning, one's going to be in charge of the FBT, one's going to do something else, and it actually gives them a little bit of a career, more of a career direction, and just to see what else is out there other than just sitting at a desk. Not a lot of client interaction sometimes, just churning out the work. So I think there's a lot in this that can actually create a better practice, and much more enjoyable for everyone.
Yeah, I think firms have got to create champions in those various areas that you just mentioned.
Yes.
I think we all need to remember what we were like when we were early 20-year-olds working in accountancy firms. You might have got your degree or been admitted to the CPAs or the institute or whatever, and then get lumbered. In my day, it was a green pen. I had to do a lot of audits.
Yes.
Actually, they taught me a lot. I think it was damn good training.
Yeah, it was good training. It was good training. But things are different these days. And I think what was right for us, for you, for both of us, it was longevity in a role that got you to the next level. And because and I guess some of it was that learning exercise, like you said, that you had started here, then you learn a bit more. But one of the things now, that's not true these days, because of the technology and the tools behind us. We don't necessarily need as much of that, taking years to get that experience. So a junior intermediate person would be well equipped to jump into an ESS BizTools product and start using it, because they're so familiar with technology. Would you agree with that? Would you agree with that?
Far more than what I am. I was telling you about
Yeah.
my little problem before I got started. I'm going to get back into that when we finish this.
Yeah.
But the other area I want to raise with you today, a bit of self-motivation here, I suppose. ESS BizTools is releasing this week our research and development product. Now, we're talking primarily about smaller accountants today. I would like to suggest that anyone watching this video contacts your clients. So send them a newsletter, and we have some drafts of newsletters if you want to use them, and they're available complimentary. Just send me an email and I'll send them to you. And basically say to your clients, what have you been doing during 2020 and the first part of 21? Because I suspect out in business world, a lot of people have been in lockdowns, and a lot of inventions might have started. People have gone to their backyard sheds or sat on their computers or done some thinking about things. Now, they will not all have done it for a profit motive, and some of them won't have any future as being a business, but some will. There are over 13,000 companies in Australia undertaking research and development, according to Oz Industry. $6.7 billion was the government payout last year. It's a huge market. There are special benefits for companies with turnovers under $20 million, and the turnover can be as low as zero. It doesn't have to be anything which you could have undertaken. And if the company's trading at a loss, it can basically get a cash refund from the tax office. Try and get that on anything else from the tax office. And they pay it within 30 days because the government has instructed the tax office that the money for people undertaking research and development, if they're trading at a loss, has got to get paid back to them within 30 days. And I think that's great. But accountants need to know something about it. So the decision that a smaller accountant's got is either they're going to find something out about R&D, or they're going to potentially either directly or indirectly refer that client on to someone else. The indirectly might be that your client thinks that you're not interested in what they're doing, and they go off and talk to someone else, and you know what'll happen? That someone else will probably be a larger firm, and they'll suggest that they bring all their work to them. So suddenly you've lost a client that could have been developing the new Google or whatever, because all these businesses started from
somewhere
basic. So do you think small, you know, smaller accountants probably better than I do these days. Is this something they should be conscious of and looking around to see what clients have been doing?
Definitely. And coming back to that point that I made before, working out whether it is something, you have an interest in. So if you don't have an interest, well, don't worry about it. But if you do, but you think, oh, that's only for the big firms. No, it's not. So if that's something you would like to do, please pursue it. And I know when I had a practice, it wasn't something that I wanted to do, but one of my employees wanted to do it. So she did do a few, and because that was what she was, she wanted to do that and learn more about it. So for me, even though it wasn't something that I necessarily wanted to get into, someone in my firm did. So for me, I said, yeah, go for it. And then in another instance where one was just far too big and there was far too much involved, I did actually outsource that. So again, you don't have to do the same thing all the time, but if it's actually that niche for a certain size of business or a certain size of R&D that you would feel comfortable signing off on, that's totally fine. But you need to have all the resources around you and the support to do it. But yeah, if it's something you're interested in, it could even be geographical. So there could be some particular hubs around Australia that are, more inventive, or they've got, more in your particular part of the Australia. So if that's you, you don't want to miss out on that opportunity.
Yes, and one of the things you did say, so if someone watching this video says, oh, it's not really for me, but I'll be conscious of it for clients.
Mm,
And if you do want to talk to me about it, please contact me. I
yeah,
do run a consulting business as well.
yeah.
And I am involved with a firm which is 1,500 kilometers away from where I operate from. And the deal I've done with them is that I'm doing the work as a subcontractor to them. But
Hmm.
one of their team members is shadowing me,
Hmm.
so that I hope that in 2 to 3 years' time, she's going to be able to
Yeah.
absorb R&D, because they're not a huge firm, but they've got 12 major R&D clients in their firm they've
Yes.
discovered, and
Yeah.
or they knew, but they're all outsourced. And they're saying, well, shouldn't we be doing more of this work internally?
Mm,
And
yeah.
so they've done a deal with my consulting company that we're involved.
Yeah.
And at this stage, we've done most of the work, and the young lady is shadowing me. But in a couple of years' time, I think I'll just be doing a review of what she's done as
Yeah.
far as that arrangement. So you can do that.
But I think that's another thing, Peter. I think everyone, with not having to be next to one another, we've got the internet. We can have people working from anywhere and
Yeah.
working with other accountants. And I think one of the things with COVID that I have found is the collaboration between practices they've met online, especially the small and solo practices that quite often felt alone when they're trying
Yep.
to do some of this stuff, and then would never have attempted it because they didn't have that support. So there's so many amazing groups. I also have one which is specifically for accounting practice owners. It's called the Balance Firm, but that is also like, that's what I want people to be looking at and thinking outside the square. I actually have 2 clients that I've actually connected that have different skills, and each of them were looking for the other one's skills. And it was a situation where it was just a brief mention, and I actually thought, actually, I know someone who's got some excess capacity, which some accountants actually do.
Mm.
And I know that they were growing their business. So I actually connected the two, and they are in 2 separate states, and it's working remarkably.
Right.
So I
Right.
think looking outside the square and connecting with people, asking questions, if anyone has a question, to ask Peter about how they could do it, or myself, like, please do, because you just
Yeah.
never know. No question is silly. And some of these collaborations that I've been able to establish outside, which I have not got any involvement as far as financially, has been amazing. So I think, we always know someone, and yeah, that connection, I think we get a lot of enjoyment out of doing that. So
Yeah.
think outside the square.
That's right.
And don't be stuck with what you're doing.
So if any, the people watching either direct telecast today, or you're watching this as later on, if you need some advice on running a smaller accountancy firm, Amanda's the lady to be talking to. Amanda, do you want to give your phone number?
Yeah. Oh, well, the best way to contact me is
Or
just
email?
via email,
Yeah.
which is amanda@amandagascoigne.com. The website is amandagascoigne.com, and I am on all of the different social media channels. So you can also send me a direct message there, or otherwise just come and join the Facebook community. We've got over 500 practice owners from all over Australia, and it's a really great group for support, sharing things. Just last night, I got an email from a client saying, would you be able to put this in? This is a situation that's occurred, and I'd like other people to know about it. So it's a great way of connecting and also learning from others, because practice management isn't easy. We don't get taught that as employees, because our employers have held all that KPI, the numbers, how to run a practice, close to their chest. So that's why it's nice to be around others to share the journey.
Okay, so that's great, Amanda. So amandagascoigne.com.au. And
No,
if you're
just .com.
sorry, amandagascoigne.com. And obviously, if you're interested in being able to have a whole set of tools and resources to be able to offer business advisory services, then please visit www.essbiztools.com.au. Next week, I have Paul Barnaby with me as our other guest presenter. Paul is the Australasian representative of Plan Guru, a major company that develops budgets, cash flow forecasts, everything to do with predictive accounting. Paul's a very experienced accountant. He was a senior partner of a major firm in Auckland for many years, and he now calls Australia home. And he's going to talk to us about predictive accounting and what that really means, and how accountants can utilize those budgeting, cash flow skills to really offer value services for clients. So Amanda, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks,
And
Peter.
everyone who's watching this, thank you. And we look forward to hearing from you at some stage. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Peter.
Bye, Amanda.